tell us a little bit about where you're from, what it was like being in the military. I want you specifically, if you don't mind, to tell us, for the young folks that are listening who may be interested in being flag officers, kind of what that process entails, and kind of some thoughts you may have on how you become a flag officer. But anyways, just give us a little bit about your background, so for the folks that don't know where you're from and who you are, kind of get to know you a little bit better.
Okay, sure. Well, I grew up in Houston, Texas. My father was a career military man. He served for 22 years, former prisoner of war in Korea, shot 5 times, and still served for 22 years, retired as a master sergeant. He grew up in Houston, and then we moved to Houston after he retired from the military. My mother grew up in a small town near Shiner called Moulton, Texas.
Yeah.
She quit school in the 8th grade to work on the farm. She was the youngest of 6 kids, and she, quit school and worked on the farm. And she met my dad in Houston. They married, and I was the oldest of 4. Grew up in Houston, inner city on the east side, 2nd Ward, Magnolia Park area. I went to Stephen F. Austin High School, and quite frankly, I had no aspirations of going to college.
Really?
I was thinking about enlisting in the Marine Corps. A lot of my friends enlisted, and I thought, well, heck, I'll just join the Marine Corps. And
what's the time frame on this, General?
this is the early 70s.
Early 70s. Okay, so this is about the time. So my dad fought in Vietnam. He was a bombardier navigator, and as a matter of fact, I think he flew one of the last combat missions, which was roughly 72-ish. So when you were looking to get in the military, had we kind of pulled out of Vietnam?
We were on the tail end of Vietnam as I was thinking about all this. I graduated in June of 1975. We ended our presence in Vietnam in April of 1975. So
okay.
We literally had just come out of Vietnam as I was graduating high school. So I was thinking about joining the Marine Corps. I was going to join the Marine Corps with several friends of mine and, enlist just like my dad had done. And I don't remember why, but I was in downtown Houston on a Saturday morning. And to this day, I can't remember why. And this was back in the days when A&M played Rice, the Corps cadets would march into downtown Houston.
Nice. And
I was in downtown Houston, and I saw the Corps march by. And I had never, ever, ever seen the Corps. And, as they come marching by, the first organization that I saw was the Aggie Band.
Nice.
And so I saw that band, and I played alto sax at the time. I played alto sax since I was in the 3rd grade. And I saw this band come marching by, and I just went, wow. I don't know what that is, but I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And so I went to my high school counselor and told him that I wanted to I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to go to Texas A&M. And this is no kidding what he told me. This was a man that I respected greatly, but this is no kidding what he told me. He said, Joe, Mexicans don't go to Texas A&M.
Oh, come on now. Oh, really?
He said, Mexicans go to the University of Texas.
Oh, come on now.
And I said, well.
Does he not know who Henry Cisneros was?
I don't think he even knew.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, no, I really want to go to Texas A&M, and I want to be in that band. And again, I didn't even know where A&M was.
You know what, though? One of the reasons I'm smiling right now, General, is because I think you'll confirm this. And I was going to ask you this later in the episode, but for people that aren't like really intimately familiar with the Aggie Band, there are actually a couple people in the band every year that don't even know how to play an instrument, and they kind of mime it a little bit. So you weren't, I've got a couple friends that kind of pretended to play, but they wanted to be in the band so much that they didn't even care of whether they played an instrument. But you actually had been playing.
Oh yeah, no, I had played alto sax since I was in elementary school, and so I saw that band. I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the academic standards back then weren't nearly as tough as they are today to get into A&M.
Right.
And I managed to get in and came up to A&M and joined the band, and it was quite the culture shock for me. I was not used to, that environment, that military style environment that where they're very regimented, very structured, upperclassmen telling you what to do and wearing a uniform every day, getting inspected every day. That was foreign to me. But quite frankly, it was probably exactly what I needed coming out of the inner city and needing to learn some discipline,
Yep.
and need to learn that there were other ways to handle situations than fighting about it, than
Yep.
using your fists. And so I enjoyed all 4 years at Texas A&M University, made some phenomenal lifelong friends while I was here. My senior year, I was commander of one of the companies in the band.
Nice.
And the interesting thing was I had not planned to go in the Army. I had not planned to go in the military. And at the end of my sophomore year, the Army ROTC department called me into the office, and the professor of military science said, "Hey, I've got some good news. We have an Army ROTC 2-year scholarship, and we want to offer it to you. Would you accept it?"
Nice.
And I just said, well, how much does it pay? Because quite frankly, I needed the money. And when he told me it covers everything but room and board, I said, I'll do it.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
And he told me, he goes, now you understand that you incur a 4-year obligation to the United States Army when you sign for the scholarship. I said, that's okay. I'll do 4 years, no problem. So at the age of 20, I signed on the dotted line to join the United States Army, not realizing at the time that that was a decision that would change my life forever.
Yeah.
At 20 years old, I did this.
Wow. I mean, and that's an understatement. Looking at where you're at now, I mean, what?
Yeah, I had no clue at the time that it was going to change my life in such a dramatic way. I graduated in December 1979, commissioned in the Army, went off to Fort Sill, Oklahoma to become an artillery officer. And I literally thought I was going to do 4 years and get out. And I really enjoyed what I was doing and wound up staying as an officer in the United States Army, traveled all over the world. I started off at Fort Sill, then I spent 6 years in Europe during the Cold War with the 3rd Infantry Division, came back to Fort Sill, went to my mid-level education course. They call it the Command and General Staff College. I went to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas for a year, then went to the 1st Infantry Division at Fort Riley, Kansas, commanded at Fort Stewart, Georgia with the 3rd Infantry Division, commanded again at Fort Hood with the 1st Cavalry Division, and then I became the Deputy Chief of Staff for U.S. Central Command, and that's where I spent a lot of time in Iraq and Afghanistan. For 2 years, I was stationed out of MacDill Air Force Base, Florida, but I wound up spending most of my time downrange. Probably the most stressful 2 years of my entire career, but probably the one where I learned the most about strategic level decisions, how they're made, how policy is made. When you're interacting with, members of the House of Representatives, Congress, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, other combatant commanders, the vice president, the president. It's amazing what you learn just by watching the interaction with them and the senior leaders of the military that I worked for at the time.